razzle dazzle, we're the best. No, the courts aren't on your side, but they're not on the tenant side either. Jen, like, you are independently wealthy when you are naked. I am over treating property management the same as real estate sales. I guess I'll lead the witness. I think it's freaking scammy. Welcome to Hold It with PM Jen, the show for real estate investors who buy and hold forever and ever. Amen. Welcome to Hold It with PM Jen, the show for investors who buy and hold forever and ever. I don't have my normal trusty sidekick today. She quit. Jesse, folks, I need you to write in. Jessie has quit. She says she doesn't have time for these shenanigans. She's running a big, important property management business. And as a result, Kristen, you've been promoted to be one of my elite employees. Kristen has been our leasing agent now for 5 years, 6 years? 6 years. 6 years. And she's going to join me on this episode. But before we get into that, 2 reminders. I've got a kick-ass newsletter. And listen, it's sexy as hell for a newsletter designed for buy and hold investors. It's got book reviews. It's got my tips and tricks. It's got stories. It's got resources. It's got my rantings. And guys, you do not want to miss that one. It's a pretty cool newsletter. Link, in the bio, on the LinkedIn, on the holditwithpmjd.com. You'll find it. You're smart folks. The other thing I want you to know is I'm now available to speak this summer. So my driver, Dad, George Rulins, is on his way. They departed yesterday from California. They are driving across the country, him and my mom. They'll be here in about a week or so for the summer. And they were here last summer. He is my driver. So I have some loose plans to maybe go down to Virginia and Tennessee. Last year, I only spoke in the state of Pennsylvania. This year, I'll speak outside of Pennsylvania. And depending on what the event is and how closely it aligns with my morals and my values, right? Like, I'm all about buy and hold. And if it's easy enough to get to and Dad can take me there, well, I think we can make something happen. So send me an email. This episode, I've been working on these. There's going to be a string of these. But it's so funny because last night I got a 911. So at like 8:30, I got an email from a lady I know named Jamie. She's a realtor down in Lancaster, and she works with like a lot of women in real estate. And so she's got a little buy and hold with long-term rentals, and she does flips and stuff. She sends me an email. It's like, SOS, can you give me a call? And, I just was kind of like, it's late, but these calls, guys, they come in all the time. And then I'm scrolling Instagram a half hour later, and I think that betrays you. I think it says that you're on there. So she chatted me on there. Oh. I'm like new to Instagram. I had to change your settings. How visible I was. And she said, SOS, can you please call me? And I was like, for real now at like 9 p.m.? She's like, yeah. So I get these calls all the time. And when she answered the call, I was like, wee-oo, we're here. Like 911, you called landlord 911. And she goes, do people really call you all the time? I'm like, girl, every day I am getting, what would you do if? And so her problem, just to air her dirty laundry, she said I could. So she just got, I think it's a 2-unit, and she's got a guy who's been living there for like 2 or 3 years. Yeah. It's on a month-to-month lease. So she had a year lease. It went month-to-month. She goes, I'm never actually giving him a new document. This lease doesn't have a waiver of the notice to quit. Nothing. Because he's been a pretty good tenant. Like, things have been pretty okay. But he has been getting a little late lately. When I first asked her, are we paying? And she goes, oh, yeah, no problems. And then later in the conversation, she admitted, no, it's like, it's not on time, but it's not really late. And you know how I feel about that. Why? It is late. It is late. Right. And so she's been a little permissive with this, but she's not been charging late fees. But what put her over the edge is that the upstairs neighbors have said, I suspect this tenant downstairs is using drugs. And not like a little weed. Not a little weed, not like we're all knowing. Specifically, they suspected amphetamine use. And this is tough because this young lady has her own history with substance abuse. She's very active in the recovery community. The tenants that are complaining about this also active in the recovery. And so she approaches the tenant and is like, hey, like, what's up, bro? Like, can't be doing this. And he's like, well, it's just, marijuana. And she goes, well, do you have your medical marijuana card? It's here in Pennsylvania. It's legal medically only. You have to have the card by legal dispensaries and stuff. And he goes, no, not really. So she calls me and she goes, and the straw that broke the camel's back is she got a call. Yesterday was Monday, but over the weekend, the neighbor said this guy moved his mom in. So, and so now we have a tenant like moving in, other tenants not on the lease. We have like strong suspicion of drug use and we're on a month-to-month lease. And I said to her, well, what do you want? She goes, right, I don't want him living there anymore. I said, well, the great news is you can terminate that lease. And she goes, well, I'm fine to do the good guy thing. And like, he doesn't have to charge the last month's rent. I'll give him back his security deposit early.
It's so easy for him.
I said, what?
I mean, not easy.
You're on a month-to-month lease.
Right.
This person is non-compliant with your management or with your leasing, with your lease. They're not treating you with respect. And under this same lease, this person could decide at any time to leave.
Right.
They can terminate with 30 days notice. They don't need a good reason. They don't need to compensate you because it's going to be a pain in the butt for you to find a new tenant. I go, listen, okay, so if you gave a month's notice today, that's like June 4th, right?
Right.
And there's some case precedent, at least here in Pennsylvania, that when you give a termination like this, it needs to be for the end of a rental period.
Right.
Now, if this was a year-to-year lease, that would be the end date of that year. But this is a month-to-month lease. So the last day of every calendar month is the end. So by giving notice on the 4th of May for saying May 31st, too short.
Right.
I've not given enough notice. So the earliest I believe I could terminate that lease without it being challenged with case precedent and whatnot would be to deliver a notice to terminate that by June 30. Right. And the hints I gave her, I said, okay, so you're going to serve this lease termination. She says, how do I do it? I said, well, you're going to write that the lease is terminated effective this date and include any move out instructions that you have. And I said, if you're going to do it like one focus, I'm going to send it in a lot of different modes, right? So they're going to get it via email. I'm going to print it and stick it on the door. I'm going to mail it regular mail. I'm going to mail it certified mail. I'm going to do all those things. And that's me sending the notice and starting the clock.
Yeah.
And then I said, the most important thing you can do is don't give a reason.
Because you don't have to.
Right?
That's what I mean. Like, why are you making it so easy in the fact that he can just say, I don't want to live here anymore. I'm leaving in 30 days. And that would be that. So you don't have to overcomplicate it. Just say, we want the property back.
Yeah. And it can feel like you owe somebody an explanation because they do have to change their housing. It is a huge pain in the ass for them. I get it. I said, but what's important to remember here is when you give them a reason, you're now giving them something to argue against. And it really doesn't matter because the lease can be renewed or not renewed at the end of every rental period. And I think sometimes tenants forget that the month-to-month lease works both ways. And so she is preparing to do that today. I'll be texting her later and making sure she served that lease termination. But we even walked through like what happens when a tenant doesn't move out and goes pulled over. So like I said, this happens all the time. Oh, wait, before we get into that, Kristen, what's it like out on those streets? Kristen, you're leasing units every single day, all over 5 counties. It is the beginning of May, 2026. What are the vibes out there among the tenants?
So if you are in a leasing position, you know that probably for, I would say, the better part of the last year, it's like that scene in the Never-Ending Story where he's trying to get his horse out of the quicksand. Like,
it's so specific.
It's been tough. Like, it's been tough. I'm screaming the horse's name. I'm trying to get it out of the dirt. And like, it was a tough one. We had some months where we were, I had 19 leases secured that month, and then some were like 8 or 9. And, it was really like a feast or famine. If stuff was on the property or on the market for a long period of time, we'd see a surge where everything would lease at one time. I feel like right now in May of 2026, I can see a glimmer of change. I'm not
positive.
In a positive way.
What does that look like? Are people saying different things? Are they doing different actions, behaviors?
I think we're all past the gut reaction of talking about, what's going on in the world right now, because it is concerning. the weather is warming up and I feel like people are like, okay, like we got to make some decisions. It's the end of the school year. Like we're looking to try to move. People are still, why do I have to, why do I have to pay this high rent? Like that just seems ridiculous and things like that. So there is a focus on dollar amount. Approvable applicants, like applicants that apply with us and are approved, when I'm talking to them, they're very aware of what their budgetary constraints are. So when they're coming to me, they're going, I know that I can afford this dollar amount. I know that if I'm paying this, this, and this, I can afford this much rent.
And that's generally a sign that somebody's qualified. I mean, not that we depend on that to
Sure.
identify, but you
It's a good
noticed a
indicator.
pattern.
It's a good indicator.
Yeah, because you, just to clarify for the listener, are advertising the properties, performing showings, securing applications, and then really the processing of the application happens with other folks, but you, of course, know the outcome.
Yes.
Because if they succeed in getting approved,
Mama.
yeah, if they're declined, so sorry.
I'm sorry.
God's-
Mama will talk to you, and I do not for nothing. When we do have people that I've been working with and they are not approved with us, or even if they self-eliminate before they even apply, I do give them like, hey, try this place, try this. And like, I do make sure that I try to take care of it because in the hopes that in the future, they remember, hey, that lady over at One Focus, she was honest to me. And she told me everything that I needed to know. So I didn't waste my time and I didn't waste my money.
Yeah.
Now I have this credit score. Now I have more money. I'm going to call One Focus. Like I'm just looking forward to the future because the past year has been so tough. Like in a year, could they come back? I hope.
It's a real nice thing you're doing for people, but even though you don't have what they need, you aim to direct them to where they can because you are an expert resource. Well, what would PM Gen do? This is the first one of these. And so I'm attempting to recreate what happens when I get these emails and phone calls saying, Jen, SOS, I need your help. And so I'll share some of these. Kristen has them pulled up. She's pulled these from forums. If you're on the video, you'll see it up on the screen as well. I haven't put a lot of thought into these. These have just been kind of selected. And we're going to talk them out together here. So, Kristen, give me the first one.
Oh boy. Does anyone use in their leases the clause about the first 150 of any repair is tenant responsibility? 2 question marks.
Well,
What?
I'm going to answer the question and say, yes, many people do this and they're very proud of it. When you meet somebody who has, they call it a deductible. And I've seen them be $50 up to $250. Here locally, where our housing is a little less expensive, $50 to $100 is what I've seen. And so the intention here is that the landlord says, hey, tenant, you're going to be responsible for repairs under, call it $100, or in this case, $150. Everything else you're going to call to me and I'm going to. And the idea there is I don't want this tenant to create a lot of nuisance work for me. The handle's loose. This is leaky. This is this. The intention is to get them to whine less, to be less of a burden on the landlord. That's their honest reason. And then they can tell you any number of things, these landlords. I'll tell you what it does in practice. It builds resentment between the tenant and the landlord, and the thing that suffers is your asset, the property. That tenant, you could get
They're not going to call you because they don't want to pay for you to do that for them.
And they will let your property leak, your property erode.
Yep.
They will let it go. And it is not theirs.
Correct.
And honestly, I think any move to avoid routine maintenance like that, I'm fine with tenants changing light bulbs. I'm fine with tenants changing filters. I'm fine with tenants like doing little minor routine things like that. But when the house needs maintenance, it needs it. And we've all caught that tenant who calls it on every little thing. Sure. Right? Sure. Every time they write the rent check, they need to ask for some maintenance service. And if that's going on, you can redraw boundaries. We've certainly had that happen before. It is a very handleable situation when your property is in good repair. But we've also had the opposite. We've all also had that tenant who has their own toolbox and refuses to call you for maintenance. And that can feel like a blessing to a landlord. It really can. I do not think that is a blessing. I do not like having tenants working on my properties without compensation, without insurance, without permission, without any guidance, without. And that builds resentment from the other direction because now the tenant feels like they're working for you uncompensated.
And on the norm, most handy tenants know enough to be dangerous.
Sure.
And like that's the long and short of it.
And they're generally not motivated to do the maintenance themselves because they're just so into doing maintenance.
They think they're doing a good thing and helping take care of things.
And more importantly, they're keeping you out of the house.
Well,
who wants
and
to
then like
kill
what
like
happens when the rent is late and they go, well, I fixed that water heater.
It happens. It happens. And you go, I didn't even know the water heater was broken.
Sure.
And I'm not expressing gratitude in this moment. I'm going, what the hell did you do to it? That kept it running. We've all seen bubble gum stuffed in cracks and toothpaste for spackle on walls. We've seen it all. So yeah, what do I think of that? People do it and it's a dumb idea. Put it in the dumb idea, try again category.
Absolutely.
You know what's better than building generational wealth? Not a damn thing. And obviously the best way to do that is through buy and hold real estate. But let's be real, managing your properties yourself, that's a one-way ticket to burnout. This is supposed to be an investment, not a burden. At One Focus Property Management, we don't just manage your properties, we make buy and hold real estate actually work. We handle everything: tenant screening, maintenance, rent collection, you name it. All you do is watch your portfolio and net worth grow. We make sure you never even think about quitting real estate investing, because the secret to buy and hold is to hold it for a very long time. And you can't do that when you sell every time you have a problem. We're the biggest, baddest property management team in Lycoming, Clinton, Northumberland, Montour, and Columbia counties. And we do it all to give you more protection, less work, and absolutely no drama. So let's turn your rental properties into wealth-building machines. Learn more at onefocus.pm.com. That's onefocus.pm.com.
What else do you got?
Absolutely. Well, there is more. How much would you charge to deep clean oven, fridge, slider door, bathtub, cover up drawings on the wall, and closet doors? This isn't normal wear and tear. The fridge alone has taken 2 hours to clean, and the bathroom with the drawing has taken multiple coats of paint, and the drawings are still coming through. Just wondering what portion of their deposit is fair to keep.
Well, that is a great question because, and just for perspective, when I say what would PM Gen do, PM Gen operates in Pennsylvania, is a licensed broker, and operates her business the way she sees is good. So this is what would PM Gen do. So this happens, right, where you have damages when somebody's moved out, and the rule is the landlord can be compensated for the expense of having it done.
Like, what's the very first question that you would ask?
Well,
do you have move-in condition?
Well, yeah. So yeah, I guess that's a really good point. That wouldn't have been my first question, but it should have been, do I have the move-in condition? Can I prove, of course, that this is all dirty? Let's assume that yes, they've left this place disgusting, and this landlord has spent their time and energy because they don't have the carpet cleaning receipt. They didn't pay a cleaner and a painter. They're doing the work themselves. Very DIY, very American loving. So this is what I do is when you have contributed your work, you're going to keep a log as if you were going to be getting a paycheck. So, right? So when you give a notebook just like this. So when you went in that day and you spent the first 4 hours of the day cleaning, you're going to indicate what did you clean and you did it for 4 hours. Same thing with the painting, same thing with lawn work, trash removal, whatever tasks you did, a log, this time to this time on this date. And then you're going to apply market rates to that. So all you have to find out is, okay, how much does painting work cost in my market? Great. I'm going to assign that labor rate. I'm also going to have the receipts for my materials. You have to buy some paint, maybe a roller. Right. Same thing with cleaning. I apply my hourly rate for cleaning. And so find out what those market costs are. And that is what you are going to bill. So if you're using your own labor, it's at market rates, but keep a log. And then any receipts for any parts or materials that you use, that is what you're going to deduct from the security deposit. And if contested, if asked for an itemized receipt or proof, you're literally going to provide those logs and the market rates. And if you're being extra diligent, you might even indicate where you secured those market rates.
Right.
I use for our clients, because sometimes our clients do work on their own properties with their own labor,
Yes.
especially turnover work, and we need to do security deposit damages. We'll ask them for, it was 5 hours of this, and then we'll use our charge because it is market rate for cleaning, and that's what the owner would get compensated. Yeah. And a lot of owners don't think, they just dig in, they start doing the work, and I just want you to treat it like a job.
And document it before you even start anything. Because if you have to stand in front of a judge and say, I'm trying to get a civil judgment against this person here because I want this money, here's all these pictures. It's way more effective if you show up with all the proof in the entire case.
Yep.
Because most of them will side with you because you have all of that information.
Make it easy for the judge.
Yeah.
And photos and videos do that so well. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Track your hours, assign market rates, charge away.
All right. Hello. I got a tenant and not paying me $21,000 rent and got evictions order. And happy to not pay and getting out with free rent full year. I am in big loss to my funds. How can I mess with this guy indirectly? Oh, there's more. If I do something from my end and he's going to sue me and file criminal charges against me, what are you planning? How to deal with this kind of rat? I'm rat with a lot of question marks behind it. They want to know. I'm very frustrated with this guy and big loss of my time and energy. Open for suggestions. Thanks in advance.
So this guy, what I take from that is he had a tenant in the property. It went about a year of unpaid rent to the amount of about $21,000. He has gotten an eviction. The property is trashed. He's probably doing the work himself. Guys, I know we're laughing and we're making light of this guy going, I want to mess with this guy. I want to slash his tires and
wording.
Right.
Like the wording.
I want to flirt with his wife or whatever he wants to get into. I want to say, first of all, I get it. It's a big hurt to your feelings when you prepared this home. You've invested, you made a decision to trust this tenant and place them in the property. And all of this goes on. You suffer financially, you suffer emotionally. You've been very stressed now for a year and you have this big problem and you're out.
Right.
And it can be very natural to go, I've got to get this person back.
I'm going to find him.
I'm going to find him. And yeah, girl,
we do.
We're not beyond this.
We do.
We have a lot of vivid, imaginative things we would like to do.
Yeah.
Glitter bombs, potatoes through the window. Yeah. Listen, but here's the thing. We don't do it. Like I tell you all that to say, I understand it, get it.
Yeah.
I feel you. My best advice. What do I do when this happens? I look at my process, what went wrong, and I try to fix it for next time. Listen, go get a civil judgment against this guy. Put him into collections. Make sure, that's how you mess this up, is that you make sure your debt with him is recorded. So if you have a judgment, just know judgments aren't appearing on credit reports. Since 2017,
right,
we don't have judgments on credit reports. So if that's all you have, he or she is out there applying for new housing, applying for mortgages without your debt showing up. So we make sure to send it to a collections agency so that that person, it is following them for at least the next 7 years.
Right.
That debt to one focus is in their way of pursuing new housing and doing other things. And listen, those payments come through eventually. They do. But the best thing for you to do, question asker, is to really think about where you went wrong. Where did you go wrong on your tenant selection? Where did you go wrong on your lease enforcement? Why did it take an entire year to get them out? Why did you select that tenant? And I would focus so much more on what you have control over. And the sooner you can truly emotionally let go of that resentment, the better your investments will do. Because by holding on to it, It's kind of like when you have a really bad boyfriend or girlfriend and then you torture every boyfriend and girlfriend in the future for the crimes of that ex.
Yep.
I see that pattern playing out with landlords and tenants. And that's where these unreasonable landlords come from, is they feel like they're protecting
Their
themselves.
bias. That's where their bias comes from. It's not that it comes from a bad place. It usually comes from an experience that they had that they don't want to repeat.
Yeah.
So can I look at the applications and pick the right person? What color are they? Where are they from? Like, where do they work? They want to know those things so they can avoid that entire situation.
How many times have I heard, oh, I'm never going to rent to a blank
Yep.
truck driver, retail worker, restaurant, whatever they want to say, because somebody of that profession messed them over before.
Yep.
It's the wrong thing to do. I will tell you though, if you're really stuck in it, like go on Etsy. They have like witches and stuff. You can just cast a spell. They
Sage
can have
it.
itchy underpants for the next 10 years. Maybe there's a spell for that. I feel your pain, writer inner, but yeah,
We
let it go.
definitely help people go through that in a way better way.
Yeah. What else do we have today?
Well, I have a house I have been renting to same family for 2 years. They're very good tenants. When we did the contract, I did not pay close attention, and the pool is listed as being my responsibility if it breaks.
Ah,
I did not intend that and want to change the specifications to say repairs are their responsibility. This is the second time we are renewing the lease. I did not increase the rent last year, but prices are going high all around. Would it be okay to increase the rent plus to add that the pool repairs is their responsibility? I can take the pool out if they don't want that, but I don't want to upset them because they have been really good tenants.
okay. So this person says, I've had a tenant in a single family house for 2 years. It must be a nice house because it's got a pool.
Right.
And they says, I haven't changed the rent, but I want to increase the rent and I want to not include pool maintenance. Well, what I would say about this is whenever a lease is up for renewal, all terms are up for renewal.
Correct.
And, it is a negotiation between the tenant and the landlord. I much more see it as the landlord's responsibility to present a renewal offer. And so if my client came to me and said, okay, we've had a tenant in there for 2 years. I don't want to include the pool maintenance. Wow, what an oversight. Never thought of it. Okay, fine. So no leases that I offer this tenant are going to include pool maintenance.
Right.
And I would probably offer something like, we will pay to close it down and then you're not going to use it. Or officially maintenance is on you. It depends if this is year round or a seasonal property, if you're in Pennsylvania. Here in Pennsylvania, North Central PA, I've only managed very limited properties with pools. And we are always like shutting them down because tenants don't want to pay to maintain them.
No.
And it is an expensive, unpredictable thing to maintain as a landlord. So, and I don't get much more money for having the pool to compensate. Like there is an income.
I don't have people going, I need a pool.
No,
They don't.
they need a heater. And
Yeah, they're like, I need a roof and I need room for all of this thing.
they'll ask about installation before they'll ask about pools.
Yeah. Does it have AC? That actually is more important than a pool.
Yeah. So I would come to this tenant with a proposal like, hey, I'd love to renew your lease and really fluff them up. Gosh, we love having you here. However, the terms need to change because it's, 2 years later. And I would present, hey, we're not going to include the pool. If you want to open, it would, here's the terms, here's the kind of maintenance companies you can use, the kind of maintenance you have to have. But here's the new rent. And one way I like to couch a rent increase is with giving them options. So if you'd like to secure, and you say you'd love to have these people continue living there, well, great. Well, maybe a long-term lease, a 2 or 3 year lease at, of course, a higher rent that they're paying now, but maybe not as high as it could be, locked in is the best of both worlds for both of you. Maybe a 1 year rent, a lease with a regular rent increase to get it to market makes sense. And then I love offering them a month-to-month lease, but with a premium that's over and above that 1 year rental market. Whether that premium is 10% of the rent, or I've seen it as high as 25 or 30% of the rent in some markets. That's a way to couch that. But yes, and the way I would do this is okay, so if it's a 30-day notice on an annual lease and that lease is up, let's say June 30th, I'm going to give them notice, not just 30 days ahead, because they have to give me 30 days notice if they don't like it and want to leave. So I'm going to give them maybe 45 days notice of, hey, the lease you're on is going to be expiring on June 30, and we're not going to renew that at those terms, but we are offering you a new lease terms. And this is what it is. And we clearly lay out what's changed. By the way, you might want to update other terms in your lease. Other things might have changed over the last 2 years. That's why when we renew, even if it's only on month-to-month terms, I want a new signature on a new document. I prefer to have a document signed at least once a year between us and the tenancy because we're changing things. There's new case precedent. There's new rules. There's new policies, and we're incorporating them in the leases and keeping everybody current. So that's my advice to you, landlord. Raise the rent. Don't include the pool. Be transparent. They're not going to leave you over this.
If they love the house and they love where they're at, they will be happy.
And if they love that pool, they'll pay to maintain that pool.
Yep. If I wanted it that bad, I'd say, okay, we're going to do that then.
Yeah.
All right. Would you allow a tenant to run a lash or nail business in the house they are renting? If it is a good source of income and how they pay their rent, why not? Why not?
Well, I'm laughing because we've had this happen more than once, right? So the lease says this is for residential purposes only. You're not permitted to operate a business out. And of course, the first question everybody asks is, well, I work from home, or I have an eBay business, or I make arts and crafts and sell them on Etsy. Okay, here's the true thing that can't happen in my properties. You can't serve your clients physically on the property.
Right.
Can you be a telehealth psychiatrist? Absolutely. Your patients aren't coming and going. But the lash and nail business is famously
people in and out. Yeah.
It's like a salon. And so the answer is no. And the reason is, there's so many reasons. Like the one I think about is liability.
Liability.
I think about liability.
Yeah.
I think about the liability of having this sort of unlicensed trade happening in my building knowingly. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in the people coming and going. I'm not interested in neighbor complaints. I'm just not interested. Famously, we're asked about daycares, hairstyling.
Yeah.
People, those
Pet
kinds
sitting.
Pet sitting. But we've had it happen. We've actually had a tenant before. Well, you tell that story because you discovered it, didn't you, on social media?
She had a whole salon set up.
But you knew her because you leased to her.
Yes.
And then on social media, did you see her advertising her business?
Oh, I saw her actually doing the lashes in one of the bedrooms at the property. And I was like, that's the ceiling and the light fixtures. Like, that's actually the property.
So what did we do when that happened?
So we went there, she had a sign out there. So the first step was
Oh, she had a sign.
she did. She had one of those little like plastic yard signs out there. So we
Was
let
this
her
an
know
apartment or a single family?
it was a single family home.
Got it.
So she had to take the sign down. We went through, we did the inspection. We told her that she had to, dismantle the entire salon setup. And then we had to continue doing compliance visits until we got to a point where we felt confident that she was no longer running the business out of there. I mean, the thing is, like, you want to go to someone who's licensed, and it is, I understand a deal's a deal and it does get expensive to get those things done, but like, for like your own personal safety, probably showing up to somebody's house and doing it in a bedroom upstairs is probably not the best thing to do.
I feel attacked. I've had a spray tan in the basement of Old City Hall. Not a licensed facility. Listen, we've all engaged in the black market dark arts. But you haven't had anything done in an unlicensed facility?
No, because I'm a little poor because I buy expensive shoes. And
well, I'm poor, so I'm doing things on the black market.
I'm doing my own self tanning and my own mascara.
You're right. So yeah, so when in that example, I kind of remember we came in, said, "Hey, can't do the lash business in here." And then didn't she claim she had stopped and then continued advertising? And we had to keep going back and going, no, for real. Yeah. I mean, so people don't always stop the second you ask them to stop, but you can continue enforcement. You can make it very difficult for them. And by the way, we can non-renew a lease.
because they're not compliant with the terms of the lease.
Yeah. I mean, depending on how much time was left on that lease, would I file a landlord tenant complaint and go in front of a judge and try to prove that they're doing an illegal now business? Maybe not, but
It does make them feel uncomfortable.
I'm definitely going to terminate that lease. I'm not. In this case, the person got on the straight and narrow. We can continue the tenancy.
Right.
They got a proper spot to do that business, and that's great. It's not the property.
Right.
Any more questions queued up?
Oh, yes. Yes.
How many more do we
I
have?
have one more.
Oh, perfect.
Hello. Wondering whether it's acceptable to ask a potential tenant if they have an emotional support animal. Is the tenant supposed to be the one to bring it up for legal/disability discrimination reasons? Thanks in advance. So I guess my first question before you start would be, what would indicate that they need an emotional support animal? Do they have an animal that they're saying it is? Like, it's kind of vague. Like,
Yeah.
why would you ask them if they had one?
So I've heard this before. Like, I've heard people are very scared of having the animals in the property, particularly when they don't want to. So investors can feel like this whole fair housing and reasonable accommodations for the disabled is a real hindrance to them, a real burden. And so what they're trying to do is use it as a screening criteria. So what they're trying to do is say, hey, they're going, wouldn't it be great if I could just ask, hey, do you have a service animal? And then you would know. And then my guess is they would like to discriminate based on that fact. Doesn't sound like they're eager, right? So can you ask? You cannot ask if somebody requires a reasonable accommodation. Okay. And a reasonable accommodation is when somebody has an animal in the property because they have a disability and it's required for their disability related needs to have full use and enjoyment of the property. It's a reasonable accommodation they're seeking, and that is that they get to kind of break the rules for those reasons. It is appropriate to ask, do you have an animal? Will an animal be living in the property? Now, animal means any animal. You use the word pet classically in the discussion of service animals. Pets are pets, and service animals are animals.
Right.
No, all pets are animals, but not all service animals are pets, one of those things. So you can ask about the animal. You certainly can. And maybe that gives you, okay, I have a dog, maybe you say. And I go, oh, I'm so sorry. I actually have a no pet policy, no animal policy. And you'd say, oh, well, I'd like to seek a reasonable accommodation. Okay. Now you know that person is presenting to you as disabled and intends to pursue a reasonable accommodation for it. You cannot discriminate based on this.
No, you cannot.
It's also, by the way, not useful. Because here's the thing. The tenant does not have to request the reasonable accommodation before they lease, when they move in, or at any particular time.
They can just ask for it on a random Tuesday.
Anytime. And because people can become disabled at any point in time, permanently or temporarily, and they can need these accommodations at any point in time.
Right.
And so what can happen, right, is you can have somebody interested in your property, they approve, you qualify them, and you approve them. You move them in, first month's rent, happy move-in day. And they go, here's my reasonable accommodation request.
And I say, well, if you go to petscreening.com, you can do these things.
Yes, everyone focus through using a partner called petscreening.com in order to help us handle those requests legally and seamlessly without us getting into the HIPAA of it all. It's, we don't know how to.
And we tell them that we are happy to make that accommodation as long as we have the proper documentation.
But I can see how regular landlords,
It's stressful.
do-it-yourself landlords can feel as if they're being hoodwinked. And I would just encourage you to get over it. I would encourage you to go, this is a cost of doing business. Real estate is ridiculously profitable.
Yes.
Vulnerable people deserve protection.
Yes.
And this is how we're handling it in our society. And it is not perfect. It does not prevent anyone from taking advantage. But I do believe it benefits the greater good.
You're right. You don't have to love it to follow the rules.
Like, you don't have to love it to follow the rules.
Yeah.
Gosh. Listen, let's put that on a t-shirt. You don't have to love it to follow the rules. That's not a prerequisite. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. I want you to get on that newsletter. I want you reading what I'm posting on LinkedIn, on my website. Guys, there's a lot of content coming from me. Invite me to your events. And yeah, so buy and hold forever and ever. Amen. Till next time.